Welcome to this video on changing the spark plugs on this Kawasaki GTR 1400. Okay, so here's a quick look at some of the tools you're going to need to do this job. The space is very restricted, so you're going to need a vast array of assorted tools. So you're going to need a selection of shorter extension pieces like these. The longer ones are no good to you. You've only got about, like that one there, that's too long. You're going to need shorter stuff, no more than a couple of inches long, like the size of the actual socket, spark plug socket, like that. So you're going to need to sort of, as you can see me in the video, I'll be sort of just stacking them up like this because the space is very restricted. Online you can get a extension bar that is flexible, which I wish I'd had. I don't know if they work particularly well, but next time I definitely buy one and try it. If you look at the video on the if you look at the video on the Z800, that's very restricted space, but you can come in from the top. On the GTR, there's no way of coming in from the top because there's a lot of framework in the way, so it's all done underneath with very little space. So on the GTR, the space underneath is very limited due to the frame being in the way, so you can't go much higher than that. You know, my hand kind of represents the top of the frame, so you've got to build it up with little bits at a time. So you're also going to need some way of getting the spark plug out of the bore. Now, lots of these spark plug sockets will have little rubber grippy things inside, like that one. You can't see it very well. It's like a rubber sleeve, it kind of holds it like that. That one doesn't, so that one will slide out quite nicely, which is okay for putting it back in. Because what I found with the one that we were using, it wasn't one of these spark plug sockets, but the one that we did use, when you were trying to pull it out, it was leaving the rubber sleeve over the spark plug, which is no good to you when it's stuck down in the middle of the bore. So as you can see, that one just about grips, but it will let go when you pull it out. But the other one was much tighter, and like I say, it was leaving the sleeve there. That's okay, using a magnet like that is fine for the outer ones, but you couldn't get it in the middle of the engine because obviously you couldn't bend it underneath the frame. So you've got to do several different things to get the spark plug out. For getting it in a little tube like that is ideal. You screw it in and then you can pull the rubber bit off the top. So we're going to start with cylinders 3 and 4. So we're just using a screwdriver to push the tab of the connector off the ignition coil. Now this is the important bit. It's very difficult to get the coil out. You've got no room to pull it, so you've got to use a flat bladed screwdriver to gently prise this out. Now do this at your own risk because these things are probably expensive. So I'm just prising it out gently there, using a bit of leverage on the engine. This is number 3. Again, we're using the screwdriver just to push the tab off. So you can't see a hell of a lot there. You can just about see the ignition coil of number 3. Again, I'm going to use a flat bladed screwdriver. So I'm trying to put the blade underneath the connector side. Now I've got no leverage there, so what I'm going to have to do is put like a pliers underneath to kind of lift the screwdriver slightly. I'm struggling to turn that. So I got no room and no leverage. Okay, so I'm putting the pliers just underneath. This is just to help me lift the screwdriver. You can just about see the blade there. So I'm just turning it anti-clockwise. I'm putting it underneath and turning it anti-clockwise to just push it up Once you break the seal then, like you just did there, you should be able to pull it out. You got that pipe for the fuel tank in the way as well. That's just coming out, and it's hitting the top of the frame. There's almost no room to work here. You're going to bring it up gently, and you can just about pull it out. Okay, so here comes the fun bit. I'm trying to get the spark plug socket down into the bore. I've put a couple of little connectors on there, as you can see, and one is like a hinged connector. So I'm trying to get it in there, trying to stand it up, but I think as you can see there, the frame again is in the way. So it's just, you can just see it there, like hitting the top. It's just hitting the top of the under frame. So I can't quite straighten the spark plug socket out, so it won't drop into the bore. So it won't go. You can just see it touching the top again. So that's going to have to come out and take one of those connectors off. It just won't straighten up enough. Like I say, one of those bendy, flexible extension pieces would be really handy here. Like I say, I've never used one. I don't know if it would work, but it's certainly worth a try. Right there, so I've taken one of them off. I'm pushing it back down into the bore, so it'll go in now, and I can just drop it in, hopefully. There's pretty much no space, you're just working with one hand. So I'm getting another connector on. Obviously struggling with that one. Let's try another one. Okay, now I think I'm having a bit of problems here because I can't get the ratchet to connect to the flexible head of the extension piece. It's just flopping around, and I got no room to get my hand in there and push it down. I'm trying to get a different socket in there that's a little more rigid. It's still hinged, but it's a slightly larger one. So what we've just realised there is the larger hinge socket head won't go down into the bore. Okay, so we've got a different extension socket and a different ratchet. So this is rigid, so I'll be able to sort of get the ratchet head on. Now even there, I can't get my hand in to push the ratchet onto the extension bar, so I've got to push it down with a screwdriver. Okay, so I've got it on and I'm managing to undo it. You can see there I got very limited movement. It's about 1 inch or 2. Barely managing to turn it. So this goes on for some time. Okay, so I've got pliers in there to hold the extension bar, again, while I try to prise the ratchet off, again, because I can't get my hand in there to pull it. So now I can try to undo it with my fingertips. Just trying to get you a slightly higher view. Okay. So now I'm trying to disconnect the extension bars with one hand. Struggling to get to that with the magnet. Okay, so I'm just putting another socket in there to try and grab the spark plug, which has obviously come loose. So it's one of those sockets that has the grippy rubber inside it. No, didn't get it there. It's really difficult to push down and grab the spark plug. There it is. Okay, new one going back in. The owner of this bike had put a bit of copper grease on the threads of the spark plugs, which I just wiped off. You don't need copper grease on your spark plug thread. Trying to lower it gently in because I don't want to smash the electrode, which will obviously put the spark plug gap out. So you see that I've just used a different socket to put it in, and I'm using this one now that hasn't got the gripping rubber on there. I don't want to tighten it up and then find I can't get the spark plug socket out. Struggling to get the ratchet on because there's absolutely no space to play with there. And again, this will take some time to tighten up. So I'll fast forward it for you. Again, using a screwdriver now to separate the ratchet from the extension bar. Now I'm trying to pull them out with one hand, whilst also trying to separate them from each other, which isn't easy. So I'm trying to hold it there with a magnetic stick. Also pull the extension bar apart. Okay, so the coil's going back on, and again there's almost no room whatsoever. Barely able to get that in. So I can't quite tilt that up, so I'm having to just gently try and push, just gently trying to push the rubber into the bow. Okay, he's in. No, he's not. Okay, so we're still struggling with this one. There we go. Now, before you push it all the way down, best thing you can do there is put the connector back on, because it'll be more difficult once it's pushed into place. Now I'm going to try and push it down gently with a screwdriver head, not poking it into the top of the coil. Remember, do this at your own risk, because these are probably expensive. Make sure it's tilted the correct way, so the wire is routed so that it doesn't catch on the engine. I'm trying to push that down hard. You'll feel it click into place. Needs a bit more of a push, and you've got to make sure, like I say, the coil isn't catching on the engine. Okay, so that whole palaver of doing number 3 took approximately 25 to 30 minutes. So we're now going to get on to number 4, which is much easier because it's just enough clearance past the frame. Okay, so that's the spark plug out. And the new one going back in. I'm trying to put it in with a magnetic stick here, but obviously it won't leave go. I don't want to just drop it in there. I'm trying to poke it in with a screwdriver, but like I say, that's not going to work. So we're going to have to use the old rubber tube method. So I'll just put it onto the thread of the spark plug, screw it in a little bit. Once it grabs, then you can just pull the tubing off. Also a good idea to do this because you can't cross thread it. You need to stop turning, you know. Okay, so in we go. Much easier. Okay, so number 1 and number 4 cylinders is going to take you about 5 minutes, and number 2 and number 3 cylinders are going to take you about 25 to 30 minutes each. I'm sure there must be other methods of doing this. Obviously the Kawasaki mechanics don't take 25 minutes to check one spark plug out, so they must have some special tool or method, like say one of those bendy extension bars probably would make it a lot easier. Again, in goes the coil, connect it up first. It's easier to see here that you've got like a bit of engine casing sticking up there. Looks, you've got to get it around it so you can press it home. Okay, let's get on to the other side. Now this is a little bit more difficult. I got this framework in the way. The bike was partially stripped down before I got to it. So you can see here it's a little bit more difficult as you have the throttle housing in the way. So number 1 cylinder is just about underneath the throttle cables, about there. And then number 2 is a little bit further in. You've got to disconnect a couple of block connectors to pull out of the way. But it's much the same. I'm not going to bother showing you it. It's much the same as doing the other side. So I hope you like that video. Best of luck if you're changing the spark plugs on your GTR. If you like that video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.